It's just how it works in this business. You may be okay with something now, but then you do it and then you realize after the fact that you don't like how you felt after that. Having those healthy boundaries will help you navigate this business a lot safer and hopefully a lot more lucrative.
Welcome back to On The Horizon. This is MelRose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode.
Every evolution of your career looks different, and different tactics and strategies are important to put in place at every level. Today, Kari Anthony joins us to talk about her career transitions and burnout recovery, some of our most requested topics here at SWCEO. Kari Anthony is a 2-decade continual learning performer, content creator, live streamer, educator, digital marketer, advocate for size acceptance, believer in positive change, and consultant/coach for those who are looking to expand their brands. She is a rising phoenix who has found creative ways to reinvent her online personality and evolve with the ever-changing digital world that we all reside in. Known as a trailblazer for her successful BBW projects such as BBW FanFest, BBW Camhouse, and iheartbbw. Kari, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. There is so much I want to get into with you, but I think I really like this first approach where we set the stage and give people a little bit of background on you in case they're not as familiar with you as I am. So could we maybe start with sharing your journey into kind of the adult industry and how you became really involved with the BBW community?
I've been in the industry for 2 decades, and I started as a phone sex operator on Night Flirt. And it really just started by happenstance. Life happens, and I was finding that I needed to take some time off of work. I had a 9-to-5, and at that time, this is before social media was what it is today, I saw a job offer to work from home doing phone work. Well, I didn't know that it was phone sex work until I got into it, but I loved it. And naturally, my career evolved from there to doing photos and videos, and then doing live webcam because that was still very new at that time. And, once I was able to really hone in on what my strengths were, I realized I was making more money with my part-time at-home hobby doing phone sex, photos and videos, and live cams than I was at my 9-to-5. So I quit my job, and the rest is all history. Obviously being a plus size person, the BBW community was where I originated and have remained loyal throughout the years, almost to a fault. But, you stay where you're passionate and you want to help the people that look like you, that suffer from the same struggles that you do and face the same challenges. So here we are now. And you are presented with all of the things Kari Anthony, Platinum Pussy, iHeartBBW.
I love that. Can you, just for context, because starting from phone sex and then going into all these other types of content, what platforms do you focus on, or where did, for phone sex, were you Night Flirt, were you Sex Panther, which one was it?
Well, obviously I was Night Flirt for many, many years because Sex Panther is a more newer platform in terms of the recent decade. There was not the same cell phone access, and you couldn't do all the things on your cell phone that you can obviously do now. And so it was very different. I actually used the landline for my phone sex operation. I used a digital camera that took an SD card and batteries for my photos and videos. So back then, I just used primarily Night Flirt. And then when Sex Panther came around, I was elated because, that opened up new doorways for me because I was great. I'm really great at texting and sexting. So Sex Panther is now my primary text service platform.
Okay. Makes sense. So I think first off, I would love to discuss and kind of get into iHeartBBW as a brand. So what inspired that? What is iHeartBBW as a brand? How is that separate from Kari Anthony in general?
So Kari Anthony is the retired mattress actress, basically the test dummy that tries everything out and gets all the information. iHeartBBW is a brand that sparked from other successful events. BBW Fan Fest was the first ever BBW Awards and 3-day event, much like Exotica, but it was geared towards BBWs receiving awards for their services and their performances and all of the things that they were doing in the adult industry. Because back then it was different. There wasn't a plus size or a BBW category for all the awards. So we had to make one. And that was, obviously pivotal in creating all of these award categories for the current awards. And then for other people who are also doing awards that include other genres of our industry, not just the BBW community. So I was really, really excited to do that. And then, obviously, when you're a one-woman show, you tend to burn out real fast, which is obviously something that we're going to talk about later. But from there, I did a project called BBW Cam House. And these are all things that I started off doing as Kari Anthony because I personally found passion and potential, but eventually they became bigger projects than myself. And were very instrumental in helping performers, again, of the BBW community that were finding difficulty getting recognition or opportunities. And so BBW Cam House was another place that helped a lot of performers get some sort of, I'm just like a marketing magician. Like I just market. And so those projects became very important to the BBW community. And then once I finished with BBW Cam House and we shut the cameras off, which the BBW Cam House was a live virtual house that you could go to our website and literally see the cameras inside my house and whatever was going on in the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the kitchen, the basement, whether we were shooting content, doing live cams together, having a lifestyle party, or me just sitting there at my computer being boring, because that's what I really do all day. You could see what we were doing, and it was a really awesome project. Unfortunately, long before its time, but it would have been great through the pandemic. But when we closed the cameras, I needed something that was going to be more of an umbrella project and didn't just focus on one area or one niche of the industry. And so that's what birthed iHeartBBW, because it's podcasts, it's live cams, it's people who are doing content creation, it's education, it encompasses everything in the BBW community. And I really like it that way because I tend to change my mind about things, or I just have like a lot of ideas. And iHeartBBW gives me the freedom to not feel like, well, I'm only doing live cams right now, so that's what I should be focusing on. I can tap into these different areas of the industry and see what happens, see what sticks. Throw spaghetti noodles at the wall and see what happens to stick.
I love that so much because I find that like you, obviously my heart is in marketing, but I'm also a performer and also a business person. But I am someone that really loves to be able to wake up each day and chase their inspirations. So like throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks really speaks to me. And I definitely understand the need to have some kind of umbrella corporation or some umbrella enterprise, because that's, MelRose is its own umbrella and the SWCEO is its own umbrella. And within that, you have the room to play and to create all of these different veins or all of these different channels or avenues. So I definitely get the need, and it's really amazing that you have a brand focused on a specific niche of creator that's underrepresented in our space. And I think like that is something I'd love to touch on, is just how do you feel or think, I guess, that the perception of plus size creators in adult has changed and evolved over the years? Because you've been doing this so long, I'm sure you've seen it at so many different, peaks and pits of the industry.
I have. I think that we are in our prime right now. We have an amazing opportunity with people like Lizzo and mainstream performers that are plus size that are coming out and saying, I'm plus size and proud. It's changing the way that society looks at plus size people as a whole. Obviously, there's still a long battle to go. It's nowhere near and that goes for a lot of areas of our society. But I think we've made some progress in the right direction to getting more platforms to give us the limelight, or not give us, but give us an opportunity to earn and be in those spaces where before there was a lot of companies that didn't want us on their platforms, or didn't want us to attend their events, or didn't want us to be involved at all because they did not see that there was any type of value in our genre. But quite to the contrary, our genre is still a high income revenue. I mean, and there's a lot more performers, so you have a lot more selection. And I'm happy to be still relevant in today's, industry in terms of the BBW performer, because it is a great time to be who you are. And it is a great time to get the recognition that we've been longing for so many years. And as we come together and make these things happen, it can only get better. So I'm happy. I'm happy that we're seeing positive changes.
1,000%. I think it is. I mean, to your point, it is always a good time to be who you are. I love that sentence so much. Do you look back, like, how far you've come as Kari Anthony and now these other brands that you're building? What are some of your proudest moments, your proudest achievements? What are those so far for you?
Gosh, that's a hard question, because to be honest with you, all the moments that I've experienced, whether good, bad, or indifferent, have been pivotal in helping me as a human evolve, helping me as a performer grow, and helping me as a leader, so to speak, become better and more educated and more knowledgeable and more wise, and be a better teacher. And that's really what I aspire to do, is to help other people, one, to see their confidence, or to be able to see their potential. Like, you can be whatever size you are, whatever ethnicity you are. You can be from wherever you want to be in the world. And you have a individual and unique sense of beauty that the world wants to see. Maybe not the whole world, but there are people out there that would love to see you. And I think for me, I just want to be a part of watching these people who probably, or at some point in their life, may not have been as confident. You can be whatever size, shape, tall, height, whatever it is that you are. And, we all have our own sense of beauty. And for me, it's very inspiring.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
I think just being happy with where you're at and being able to overcome every challenge you faced to that point is an achievement. Like, I know, speaking from my own creator experience, like, I don't think I could name a certain achievement myself, to be fair. So that's a weird question, even for me. I wonder, in your journey thus far and what you've experienced up till now, when you look forward to the future, is there something that you see in the BBW niche in terms of, adult entertainment that you expect to evolve, or that you expect to change for the future? Are you betting on any of that?
I wouldn't say that I'm betting on it, more specifically because I am going through a phase in my career and in my life where I'm trying to uncheck the boxes. And what I mean by that is that I don't want to be known as just a BBW performer. I don't want to be known as just a mature performer. I don't want to be known as just even a trailblazing performer. I want to be known as an individual. And I think for me, because my journey has been so tight knit with that BBW box, or that, I've always been the older model in most of my circles, I want to expand and just be known as an individual. So when it comes to the BBW niche, it's not abandonment, and it's not that I'm not proud to be a BBW. I want to start unchecking those boxes and stop being labeled and identified in just those spaces, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes complete sense. I think that's actually part of the natural evolution of what we see in terms of getting a niche or genre to be like societally accepted almost. Like a lot of the creators get fetishized first and put into a category, it seems. And then as that, societally kind of dies down and things get more accepted, as they should be from the get-go, you kind of find that box breaks free, and then it's just the individual. Like that's what I've noticed on some of the other genres over the 12 plus years in the industry. So I think that that's right on target, and also it makes perfect sense. Like every creator is an individual at their core. There's going to be things totally outside our genres or niches that we like and enjoy, or that we want to create around. So I feel like it's such a natural evolution, but especially when you're new as a creator, niching down makes so much sense, right? Because you can dominate a niche or a tag if you're really focused on getting exposure, on getting visibility, on building a brand. But then as you kind of have checked that off your list and you've like, okay, I've made it in this category, now it's time to branch out. Now it's time to expand and kind of go for more enterprise value. So I think like that's kind of the natural evolution of a creator in general. So it makes perfect sense. It makes me also wonder though, what advice would you give for aspiring plus size performers, either looking to get into the industry or looking to break out of those boxes like you're doing now?
One of the things, and it kind of ties into the last question, is do your research. And by doing your research, I think one of the biggest things that I want to share about unchecking the BBW box. Again, I am proud to be a BBW. It's not because I'm trying to lose weight or be anything that I'm not. It's in terms of content that I no longer agree with. My brand doesn't align with that, more specifically gaining and feeding and stuff like that. And because I'm on a healthier journey in my life, I can no longer subscribe and participate in content that doesn't, again, align with me. And there's no judgment against it. To those who still create it, by all means, get your bag. Like I in no way, shape, form, or fashion discourage anyone from doing what makes them happy. I just know that for me, I've had to go down a different path for my own health reasons, which, has been its own struggle. And part of that struggle is my relationship with food. So take your time, be patient, and have confidence in yourself, create healthy boundaries, and don't let anyone steer you from those boundaries. And by doing your research, when you start performing in certain types of content, you want to know that these are things that align with your values and your morals, and things that aren't going to compromise how you feel about yourself. Because oftentimes as performers, we may do things or participate in things that do compromise how we engage in our personal life. And when you do those things, there are collateral damages or, things, consequences after the fact that will give you feelings that you'll tangle with. It's just how it works in this business. You may be okay with something now, but then you do it, and then you realize after the fact that you don't like how you felt after that. And so do your research and just be very sure about what it is that you want to participate in. And having those healthy boundaries will help you navigate this business a lot safer and hopefully a lot more lucrative.
Absolutely. Boundaries are always the answer. I feel like that comes up in almost every space or episode that we do. And I think that's because it's just that important, like hands down. I would love to maybe pivot a little bit and switch up and discuss kind of career transitions. So for you, where do you feel you're transitioning right now in your personal career?
I am transitioning, and that's a very good question, because I have been platinum pussy for 20 years, and I've been very successful with that marketing. Almost a double-edged sword, because for social media, it's not so great, but in the marketing world, a lot of fans have gravitated towards my content. Regardless of what I look like, they see the name and they're like, I need to see who this girl is that calls herself Platinum Pussy. And then once they get there, of course, there's some that are like, this ain't for me. But there's been a lot of fans that are like, I really like your style. I like what you do. And you being plus size has nothing to do with that. I am at this stage in my life where I don't want to be a pussy puppet anymore. I no longer subscribe to the whole, you tell me what to do and then I participate. I've always been dominant, and I've always had a dom, like, I guess, sub personality, a separate, like, you know how when you're doing this work, you create kind of different personalities for different genres or different types of things. Well, for me, there was always platinum, and then there was my dom personality. Well, now I have pivoted, and I'm more of the dom personality, and I really want to like transition away from that sexualization of myself. Not to say that I can't be sexual, but I don't want that to be the main premise or the main objective with my content or my brand. So it's been tough. It's been very tough.
Are there things that stand out to you about making a transition like that you feel are useful or valuable? Because I've transitioned, I would say maybe twice in my career, mainly between stage names and like a different persona for various reasons and various, eras of my business. But what about your transition stands out as like useful, like strategically or tip wise that people listening could maybe benefit from?
In the midst of going through a transition, I think it's really important to be transparent with your fans. And that's something that I wasn't as good about in the beginning. I just kind of started making changes and didn't think that alerting anyone to the changes in my content or the changes in the way that I was operating was necessary. But it made my fans very confused. And so I had to kind of circle back and explain to them like, hey, like I've been doing this dominant thing for so long, and that's really where my heart is at right now. And it's not that I don't care about what you want. It's just that this is what I want. And I found that a lot of fans were very understanding and stayed along for the ride, where of course there's going to be some that are disappointed because they want what they want and they don't care about what you want or how you feel or where you're going with your career. So obviously you have to be willing to accept that some people are not going to stay along for the ride, much like it is with anything in life. You treat it the same as, you're going to have people that are there for a season and some people that are there for a lifetime. And luckily for me, I've had a long reigning career and really good relationships with fans that have been with me since the very beginning, and they'll stay with me till the end, which we don't know when that is. I have no end date. I'm just going to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore. But I think just being transparent with your fans and also being honest with yourself, like, why are you doing this transition? And having that open honesty with yourself is just as important as being honest with your fans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it comes down to your point about setting fan expectations, like setting and managing fan expectations. Because if you kind of like outline, this is what's happening, this is where the brand's going, I would love for you to like be on this journey and adventure with me. And like you say, like those who want to be supportive will stick around. Those who, it's not their thing anymore, maybe they'll filter themselves out. But your fan base and audience they can evolve the same way you do as a brand. And I think a lot of creators get afraid of that, where they're like, you can't step outside the box because that's not what my audience likes. But there's room to grow, don't you think?
Absolutely. And also, I think it's really important that you are in control. This is your brand. This is your body. These are your choices to make. And when you let other people dictate that for you, then you just become a prisoner to performing for people. It's almost like you're stuck in a box and everyone else is telling you what to do. They stick the quarter in and they say, do this, do that. And you're just a puppet, where you are in control and you should only, and not should, you do only what you want to do. And yes, your audience may like that you have a big butt, but you may not have that big butt forever. So you should always be thinking about what happens if I lose my butt. What happens if my boobs start to flatten? What happens when you age and your fat areas or your boobs start to sag, or you know what I mean? Like, your body's going to change. Your personality is going to change. These are things you can't avoid. So you should always be in the mindset of exploring other options within your content creation so that you can be diversified. And in the event that you get into a car accident, God forbid, or something happens to you, you'll have that ability to tap into something else and not completely feel like you're, floating in space with nowhere to go.
Entirely. I couldn't agree more. And then there's this question that came in, because we're on this topic of career transitions, right? And this might not be something you specifically have experience in with, Kari, but I'd love for you to kind of chime in with with your 2 cents on this. So the question is there any experience or advice on transitioning from not showing your face on promos versus after showing your face?
I have never been a faceless creator, so I can't speak from experience, but what I can say is that I have seen an influx of faceless creators, and some of them are massively successful. I think it's just at your discretion if and when you choose to start to promote yourself as a now you come out and you say, I'm willing to show my face, but understand that there's a value with that. And if you're smart with the marketing, you'll make a lot of money just dangling the carrot and making your fans work for it. You want to see me. And I feel like that's not even just with faceless content, that's with any kind of content. So let's say you're a dominatrix and you just do solo content and you've, pondered the fact of working on a collaboration with another creator, dangle that carrot for a little while, make some money off of it and have your fans pay to see it. Don't just jump into it. The same thing with people that do hardcore content. There's certain things that, you don't do initially and you give it a high value. So that when you do decide to do it, your fans are really willing to pay for it because you made them wait for it. It's like Tinder dates. You don't always give it to them on the first date because then they don't want to take you on a second date. You know what I mean? You gotta keep raising the bar and making them work for it.
Yeah, I think it's good to always have somewhere to go, to your point. And for me, I started in the webcam space. So I remember when I would get my countdowns done in my live cam room, I would do a show. And initially in the early days, I would say months of my career, when I would do a show, I would film it or I would put the webcam kind of at the side angle. So my face was cropped out of the frame. And also you weren't seeing between my legs. You were seeing my torso, my hips, the side of my thigh, but you weren't seeing a between the legs view. And I would always set a crazy high countdown to hit tip 4 during the live cam show to change to that view, that between the leg view. And then if that ever got achieved, I would reset it to a higher countdown to show my face during the show. So it was about kind of always having somewhere to go. And then also just a security, because I was early days in the industry. I didn't want tube sites getting recordings with my face in them. And it was a precaution at some level, but it was also something to, always having some place to go. And I think content is like that. You can do that with, an escalatingness to your explicitness in terms of what you show, or in terms of how hardcore something is, or in terms of your collaborations. Maybe you're a solo creator, but you can climb this bar or set this goal to do a girl-girl show or a boy-girl show. Leaving that room to always have something else you can do is going to, keep subscribers longer, keep viewers longer, keep people purchasing and unlocking content longer. So I think it's ultimately a personal choice. If you're trying to do it for security reasons or privacy reasons, I think it's a little bit different of a story. And you have to know you'll only be the person that knows what's right for you in that regard. Yeah. But if you're doing it for monetary reasons, and if you're doing it for clever marketing reasons, I just think it's genius to always have somewhere to grow into. So I hope for that listener that kind of answers their question. I'd love to even pivot now and kind of get into some of this burnout conversation, if you don't mind, because I think that is probably one of the most requested things we talk about here at SWCEO. We talk about it all the time inside CEO Society, our close community. And I'm sure you, like myself, have definitely, dealt and been in the cycle of burnout. And I'm wondering for you personally, what kind of steps do you take, or what is your recovery plan when you are in that cycle of burnout?
So I think one of the key things to recognize is what burnout looks like for you, because it's going to look different for each person. For me, it's my lack of motivation. I don't want to create content. I don't even want to get out of bed. I literally just want to sleep my life away and pretend that whatever I'm not doing, I don't recognize that I'm not doing it because I'm asleep, right? So recognizing what the start of burnout looks like for you. And for me, it's I don't want to get on my computer more and more each day. It becomes, normally I have a 10 to 12 hour day at my computer, but then I start realizing it's 8 to 10, 6 to 8, to the point where I just don't even go to my computer at all. So early on, being able to recognize what that burnout is for you. Some people, they'll do more gaming. Some people will go out more, whatever it is for you, recognizing it. Then from there, I do a lot of self-care. I take a lot more baths. I spend a lot more time with myself and in a positive space, like not allowing anyone to trauma dump on me. And it's not that I'm not being a good friend. It's just that sometimes I'm not in a mental space to handle what you've got going on. And so I'll create some boundaries there and just give myself some love and attention that I tend to neglect when I'm in my functional workspace, or not even functional, but when I'm just focused on working. And it happens a lot, more often than a lot of people recognize, at least for myself. And that's because I distract myself with all these different projects. So I'll change from one thing to another. And that in itself is a form of burnout, because you're burnt out with that one project, and moving on to something else without finishing what you started on another project is not good, because then you just end up with a bunch of unfinished projects. So like I said, I like to take 1, 2, sometimes a week, but days at minimum, to just give myself some time to nurture my mental health, to watch some TV shows that I may not have been watching because I've been so focused on work, maybe go out to lunch with a friend, maybe even FaceTime with someone and share how I'm feeling. And oftentimes that in itself is highly, highly successful for me, because I tend to just work, and hold all these feelings in, or have these situations happen and I don't address them. I just try to sweep it under the rug. So self-care, recognizing burnout early on, and just taking, being as proactive in advance, especially big decisions. And that's my number one, is I don't make big decisions unless I feel like I'm 100%, or, at least running on it 80% or above.
I think that's a good way to measure it, right? Is because all of our decisions, I was just talking about this with a friend, and everything we're experiencing now is either a 30, 60, or 90-day reflection of things we decided 30, 60, or 90 days ago. And I love framing it that way, because it's like whenever I'm missing a deadline, or whenever I'm struggling with something, I'm like, man, what decisions did I make 30 days ago, 14 days ago, last week, that are a result of what I'm experiencing now. And it also helps me kind of reverse engineer my choices or priorities going forward. And I find that also helps me to like mitigate or prevent future burnout. It's like, okay, if everything I'm experiencing now is a result of the choices, habits, prioritizations that I made 30, 60, 90 days ago, what things do I need to change in the next 30, 60, 90 days so that I don't end up back here again? It's like recreating that mental roadmap a little bit, I find it so useful. When you are because all of us experience it. We all experience the highs, the lows of running your own business, more or less an adult creator business. But when we're kind of in that low spot, or you're on that downward trajectory, how do you manage that? Or like, how do you mitigate not just the feelings? Because a lot of the time creators will find that when they're in that down spot of their business, they experience burnout at the same time, or those things overlap. Are there things that you do in a downturn period that you find can help prevent those emotions, those feelings, or that burnout?
I can't say that I really have a preventative measure. What I can say is sometimes you just have to let it crash. And I experienced that last year. Last year was extremely traumatic for me. And instead of sitting down and taking the time that I needed to heal and to process all of the things that had happened, I put my heart, time, energy, and focus into iHeartBBW, which, at first was great because I had all this energy and I had all these ideas and I wanted to do all these things. But when you don't put gas in your car, eventually it runs out. And so because I hadn't done anything preventative to, circumvent the crashing, I ended up having to just let things crash. And that's why I mentioned the rising phoenix, because through that, I was done with everything last year. When I got into the holidays, because it happened around the end of the year, when I got into the holidays, I had made a decision. I didn't want to do this anymore. I was like, the burnout had burnt me to a crisp, so to speak. And so I had to really, through the healing, decide, do I really want to do this anymore? And of course, the natural answer is no when you're in the midst of all of this personal drama, professional drama, or just when you crash and you're picking up the pieces and you're like, wow, this is all I have left from this crash. But in all actuality, when the new year started, I had a brand new vision and a brand new attitude. And I came out of that saying, I'm going to give this one more try, but I'm going to do things differently. And like you said, where you go back and you say, what decisions did I make that would have changed the trajectory of or the outcome? I had to do the same thing. And one thing is aligning myself with people with similar interests, similar goals, and that are positive people that also can recognize when I'm spiraling or when I'm having a bad day or having, maybe some burnout, some signs of burnout that can say to me, hey, is everything okay? And a lot of times it's just someone recognizing that, because sometimes people outside of you will recognize it before you do. And being in a good circle of people is highly important and has been a major factor in how I'm able to be on here now and talk about what happened last year and be in a much better position today than I was, this time last year. So
absolutely. The reality of like being okay with a crash and burn moment, I think is super important to emphasize, because as a creator, as a performer, as anyone who is an entrepreneur, those things certainly will happen, either because, not preparedness, didn't plan perfectly because you probably don't know how to, because as an entrepreneur, a lot of the times you're doing something for the first time. So there's that factor. And then there's also the factor of having to manage your time yourself as a real human who isn't, gifted with perfect discipline, also can lead to some of these events. So like being okay and giving yourself grace in the moments where things do crash and burn, I think is so important to emphasize, because more often than not, you can get up and try again. Like most people have the opportunity and the privilege to be able to get up and try again, because it comes down to usually a cell phone and some content and an internet connection. And we live in a day and age where it's, remarkable that we have that available to us. But not beating yourself up over those crash and burns is so important, because you don't get points for suffering. You don't get points for like kicking yourself while you're down. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't get you closer to the goal. So I love that you bring that up, because I think it's an important thing to emphasize, because we all do it to ourselves so brutally.
I think it's also important to mention that you have to give yourself grace. And, I went from being surrounded by a bunch of women and a bunch of models, and I had placed so much value in remaining in that group. When that crash happened, obviously everyone spread. No one wanted to get hit with the fire. So, they all went their different directions. And I felt so alone in a moment that I'd offered so much grace to other people. And at first I was angry, and you go through this series of emotions. And I think it's important to allow yourself to go through those emotions, because what you feel today may not be what you feel tomorrow. And so those emotions turned into realizing just how much strength I have, and giving grace to myself, and understanding that you have the option to choose the people around you. And when things don't work out, that doesn't mean that you have to give up. And also to understand that who you are today isn't who you were yesterday and won't be who you are tomorrow. So if you made a mistake yesterday, figure out what mistake you made or what mistakes you made, and do better in the future. Do your best to make positive changes. And that's all you can do.
For sure. You make a good point about having the people around you and like having them to point out like when you're doing too much, or where a shortcoming might be where you could hit burnout. I'm wondering if Bryn, if you're listening, still here, do you ever feel like you can predict when one of my burnout episodes is coming?
Yes, because here are the factors that I've noticed. When you're traveling too much or too close together, when you're overworking and you start having to drink caffeine, which is like a kryptonite. And when you start procrastinating really important things by starting to work on something else that we don't need to be working on.
I feel so attacked. Those are all super accurate. But now, see, like, I didn't know other people knew that. So now that I know that, I will go into burnout differently. Thank you, Bryn. That's hilarious.
Or you could just tell Bryn to like give you some sort of sign that doesn't necessarily call you out, but like lets you know, hey, you know, yellow light instead of red light or green. You know what I mean? Like just something that's like a caution. And, you know, I see she knows all of your signs. That's the type of people you want to be around. Someone that can say, hey, you've had 4 cups of coffee now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because like if other people can predict that you might have burnout coming, it's almost interesting because why couldn't I predict that I had burnout coming? Because when Bryn's saying these things, I'm like, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, that adds up. But like, if you would have asked me that question, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what factors would be at play. So that's really insightful, even to just maybe to tap in and ask your team, like, hey, when I have like a phase of burnout, like, are there things like predating that you feel stand out that could tell me I'm going to go into a burnout phase or to prepare differently to avoid that upcoming burnout phase. So like that was super insightful as well. I'm curious now, like in terms of something you said a little bit ago was about surrounding yourself with like this positivity. Are there I guess ways that you found to stay motivated, stay inspired, and keep a positive mindset, especially during the tougher times? Because I know that's a huge thing creators and myself can struggle with at times.
Well, one, survival. If I don't work, my bills don't get paid. So survival is usually at the top of that list. But more importantly, I look at it like this. I offer myself grace and I give myself time to, you know, obviously enjoy the fruits of my labor. And sometimes I'll watch some TV or just relax. I'm pretty much an introvert these days, so I stay inside the house most of the time. But ultimately, I try to remind myself that in order for me to be successful at the things that I want to achieve, I know that it's going to take consistency, it's going to take hard work, and it's going to take me having to eliminate distractions or reduce the amount of distractions that I have in my life. Because obviously there are TV shows that I'm going to want to watch. There's going to be, you know, times that I want to just hang out and chill and not do anything. But I try to keep myself focused by reminding myself that in order for me to achieve this goal, it's going to take me doing this, that, and the third, whether it be daily, bi-weekly, whatever. I try to keep myself on track with that because, you know, at the end of the day, like I want to achieve these goals and I set my goals pretty high. And in order for me to reach them, I have to be consistent. So, and it's not easy. I just spent the last 5 days not going live because I just didn't feel like it. But, you know, yesterday I had to remind myself that I also have accountability partners, a group of people that we go live together. And we're all, you know, trying to keep each other accountable and moving in the right direction and motivated and inspired. So also having accountability partners keeps me in track because, you know, I go live because they need to go live too. You know what I mean? Like we're all doing this as a unit. So I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're kind of coming towards the end of the hour. So I think I would like to start to wrap up with like, what lessons have you learned from your career or from building your brands that you think would be most valuable for the other performers listening to this podcast episode?
First and foremost, believe in yourself. If nobody else believes in you, believe in yourself. You can do it. Beyond that, stay consistent. Keep working towards your goals. If certain things aren't working, like we talked about in the beginning, throw some noodles on the wall and see what sticks. Try some new things. Also, get advice from various sources because what may work for someone may not work for someone else. And so the advice that I give you may not work, but maybe something that MelRose has to share may work, or the combination of the two, or even with other outside sources. You know, take the time to research and, figure out what works for you. And maybe it's just a recipe that none of us have come up with, but if you take the ingredients from this recipe and that recipe, you'll come up with something on your own. And just don't give up. If you keep trying, listen, I've tried to give up at least a dozen times in my 20-year career, and I'm still here and I'm still chugging along. And it doesn't matter what type of ailments you have in your life. I'm getting ready to turn 50 in February, and a lot of people said I would never make it past 40, and yet here I am, and I'm still going. So let that be a testament to your own business and your own career and your own brand, that you can do it no matter what. And you got to take the good with the bad. But if you keep chugging along, you'll make it.
Absolutely. That's an excellent thought and kind of vibration to leave everyone listening here with. All right, Kari, what socials can people find you at? Not just you, but your brands, like plug all the things.
You can find me on iheartbbw.com, which is on all social media platforms, except TikTok. TikTok is iheartbbw.com3. You can also follow me personally. I am Platinum, PUZZY, and the number 1 on Twitter. And that's all that's really important. I don't post much on Instagram. So, you can follow me mostly on Twitter, X, as they call it now. And that's where you'll get that's where I'm the most engaged and the most current.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kari, for joining us and for gifting us with your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure this won't be the last time we have you on.
Absolutely. And thank you for all that you do for our community, all your hard work and your educational stuff. And I'm just happy that you are a platform where we can be ourselves and share our stories.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. All right, guys, as we begin to wrap up this space, I do want to shout out that we've been creating tons of new stuff over on our YouTube channel. We just most recently put up a behind the scenes look for GPTs. So it's kind of this, initial concept that we documented all the way up to the nerve-wracking launch day. We shared the ups, the downs, the fears, the excitement, and you can just discover the story behind GPTs and just how we want to impact thousands of creators, and even how you can help if you'd like to. Again, huge thank you to everyone who just tweeted us the testimonials and all the tweets about GPTs. If you haven't already heard, we did release our new uncensored AI GPT, and it's getting tons and tons of feedback posted all over social and the web. It can do anything you can think to ask it, more or less, whether that's prompting it for video descriptions, captions, help in the DMs, whatever you can imagine. There's a use case for that with GPTs. So if you want to give it a try, you can do so totally for free. Just go to gpts.ai. That's GPTs, GPTEASE.ai, or click the pinned post at the top of this space. If you want any more tips on using that product or updates on the new features, etc., feel free to join us over in our closed creator community, the CEO Society. Creators have been sharing their favorite prompts, their success using GPTs, and just their success using tips and strategies in general. It's not just about the product, it's about creators as a whole and everything and anything we can do to help each other with accountability, something Kari just mentioned. We also have daily co-working spaces there for you. This way you can get some of that admin work done, the scheduling of posts, the replying to DMs, whatever pending tasks are on your to-do list. You can do that in a co-working space with all of your creator friends in the community here on the CEO Society. So I hope that I do see you over there very, very soon. Now, if you're not tech savvy or maybe not interested in a tool like GPTs, you can always get pre-made scripts and content calendars over in our shop, sexworkceo.com/shop. A while back, we launched this store website and we just filled it with content calendars, sexting scripts, even unlock sales scripts or like overcoming sales objection scripts to help you close the deal with fans and PPVs. And if you want to get a taste of what there is to offer without spending a dime, there's totally free PDF downloads available there as well. So if you're interested in something like that, head over to sexworkceo.com/shop after this episode. Now, I want to take this opportunity to draw your attention and remind all of you listening about SWR Data, my other company, in case you're not yet familiar. So SWR Data is on a mission to survey adult creators like you And we want to hear your feedback about the challenges you face and how the adult industry can better serve your needs. Our goal is to collect your experiences, opinions, and observations about the current state of the industry. We then use this data to advocate for necessary changes to make it a better place for us, the creators. Because the reality is, the people in power have never been creators and simply don't know what our needs are, and SWR data is attempting to be that lens. However, I can't do that alone. I only have my lens. So I genuinely need your help. And for that reason, we're inviting any creator who's willing to participate in our qualifying survey, which helps us understand your expertise as a creator. And then by taking the survey, you can participate in future paid surveys. Now, I want to mention right now, if you are listening to this and you do want to get active, we are actually running our 2024 State of the Creator Survey. This is an unpaid survey, but the data is for us creators individually. It's not a sponsored survey by anyone. And basically, we released one of these surveys, a State of the Creator report, 2 years ago, and it told creators like what platforms we're succeeding on, what kinds of content we're doing well, where we're thriving, where we're challenged, and what kind of strategies we could potentially put in place within our business to do better. If you're listening to this on the podcast and you're curious about the report and it's already out, just tweet us publicly and we will try to get you that report so that you can make data-driven decisions for your own business. Now, lastly, but most importantly, I want to emphasize that all of the information we put out here on SWCEO, we do so for free because we believe in this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we'll have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. And I say that now with more confidence than I've ever said it before because we have actually made impact like this. So if you find value in the content that you heard here today or the tweets you've engaged with, please, please, please consider sharing it to make this journey easier for your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet our stuff so that we can all help as many people as humanly possible. So thank you again for joining us, CEO Squad, and I will see you a week from now with Stripper Writer on The Space. Thanks, guys.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.